This is your need to know. This is your need to know.
All right, Buffy fans, get ready, because today we're diving deep into something that's got the whole internet buzzing.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah Michelle Gellar is actually open to a Buffyverse comeback.
It's huge.
Like, seriously, Buffy herself might be back in action.
I know.
And we're going to unpack all of that. We're going to figure out what that could look like.
Yeah.
We've got tons of fan reactions from Reddit threads, specifically from the Buffy and television subreddits.
Yes.
So we're basically your Watcher's Council here, guiding you through all the speculation.
I love that.
So I guess like right off the bat, what's so fascinating about this is how much Gellar's stance has actually changed.
Right.
Like, remember that whole perfect bubble comment she made about Buffy?
Oh, yeah. How could you forget?
Like, it really seemed like she was completely against ever revisiting the series.
Totally. Yeah. She was pretty firm on that.
So now to see her even considering the idea of expanding the Buffyverse, it's a big deal.
It's a really big deal.
And she even mentions shows like And Just Like That and Dexter New Blood as possible models, which is interesting because those revivals had pretty mixed results.
They did.
So it makes you wonder what aspects of those shows she sees as working and which ones she'd probably want to avoid.
Yeah. And it's not just about following a trend either.
Right.
Gellar actually connected a potential Buffyverse return to a much deeper idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she said, and I quote, "We need these heroes now more than ever."
Wow.
It seems like she's really tapping into this collective anxiety that we're all feeling in the world right now.
Oh, for sure.
It's that need for those classic good versus evil stories, you
Mhm.
know, the kind that Buffy just embodied so perfectly.
Yeah, totally. It feels like there's a huge hunger for that kind of escapism right now.
Definitely.
But we can't talk about a Buffyverse comeback without addressing the elephant in the room.
Oh, no.
Joss Whedon.
Yeah, you can't avoid it, right?
His creative contribution to Buffy is undeniable, but the allegations against him have definitely made things a bit more complicated.
Oh, absolutely. It's been tough for a lot of fans.
It's interesting to see how they're grappling with all this.
Yeah.
You know, you see a lot of comments acknowledging his role in creating this world that they love, but also condemning his alleged actions.
For sure.
It raises that question of separating the art from the artist, and there are just no easy answers there.
Nope. That's a conversation that goes way beyond Buffy.
Definitely.
It's something that each viewer just has to wrestle with on their own.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's shift gears a bit to the content itself.
Okay.
One thing that really jumped out from those Reddit discussions is the overwhelming desire for a Ripper spinoff.
Oh, yeah.
People are really clamoring for a deep dive into Giles's backstory.
Oh, absolutely. It's like that little taste we got of his past in the original series.
Right.
Just left everyone wanting more.
Yeah.
So what is it about Giles's past that you think makes it so ripe for exploration?
Well, I think there are a few things at play here.
Okay.
First, you've got the classic appeal of a bad boy gone good narrative.
Oh, yeah.
Like we see those little glimpses of Ripper,
Right,
the
yeah.
rebellious, magic-wielding youth.
Right?
And it contrasts so sharply with the Giles that we know,
Mm-hmm.
the bookish watcher, the father figure to Buffy.
Yeah.
It's a transformation that's begging to be explored further.
It's like that one line Joyce says about Giles being like a stevedore in his youth.
I know, right?
Like, seriously, what does that even mean?
Exactly.
The mystery deepened.
Right. That one comment just throws open a whole world of possibilities.
It really does.
It makes you wonder what kind of wild experiences really shaped him into the Giles that we know and love.
For sure.
Second, I think there's an element of wish fulfillment for some fans.
Bye.
Giles is such a beloved character.
Oh, yeah.
And the idea of seeing him in his prime battling demons in like a gritty 70s London setting,
Ooh.
it's a recipe for some seriously cool storytelling.
And fans are already dreamcasting.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen names like Nicholas Hoult and Harris Dickinson being thrown around for a young Giles,
Oh, that's good.
which, honestly, I can totally see.
Those are some great choices.
Yeah.
And it really shows how invested the fans are in this whole concept.
Mhm.
They're not just passively wanting a Ripper series.
Yeah.
They're actively imagining it, casting it, and even suggesting storylines.
Wow.
They see the potential, and I think that's really exciting.
It's like they're almost writing the show themselves in these Reddit threads.
I know.
They're that passionate about it.
Yeah.
But a Ripper series isn't the only idea floating around.
Right.
There's also been a lot of buzz about a possible Tales of the Slayer anthology.
Now, this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
You already have the Tales of the Slayer books,
Right.
which explore all these different Slayers throughout history, bringing those stories to the screen, maybe with each episode or season, focusing on a new Slayer in a new time period.
Interesting.
It could be a great way to broaden the Buffyverse without messing with the original series continuity.
Yeah, that's a really smart way to expand the world, and you could do so much with it visually.
Oh, totally.
Imagine seeing Slayers battling demons in ancient Rome, feudal Japan, or even the Wild West.
So cool.
It opens up so many possibilities for storytelling, and it could introduce the Buffyverse to a whole new audience.
Exactly. Plus, you could use the anthology format to tackle different genres and tones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you could have episodes that are straight up horror, others that are more action-packed, and some that even lean into comedy or romance.
Wow.
It would be a way to keep things fresh and unexpected while still staying true to the core themes of the Buffyverse.
It's like you could create a whole Buffy multiverse.
Right.
Okay, so let's say a Buffyverse revival of some kind actually does happen.
Okay.
What role would Buffy herself play?
That is the million-dollar question.
It is.
And it's one that's dividing the fans.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some are all in for a full-on Buffy comeback, maybe even with her as the lead.
Okay.
Others think her involvement should be limited to a cameo or a mentor role. And then there are those who think it's best to leave her out altogether.
Yeah, I can see that.
They worry about tarnishing the original series' legacy.
Yeah. I've seen people bring up reboots like the new Charmed as a cautionary tale.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody wants to see Buffy go down that road.
Exactly. I think the key here is balance.
Okay.
You want to honor the nostalgia that fans have for the original series and for Buffy as a character.
Right.
But you also need to create something new and exciting. Something that can stand on its own.
Yeah, I agree with that.
One idea that seems to be gaining some traction is Buffy taking on a more Washer-like role.
Oh, interesting.
Mentoring a new generation of Slayers.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, especially given Buffy's character arc in later seasons.
Right.
She really becomes a leader, a teacher even.
Totally.
To see her passing on that knowledge and experience to a new Slayer, it feels like a natural progression.
Yeah, it does. And it allows for those cameos that fans are craving.
Yeah.
Without making it all about Buffy again.
Right.
She can pop in, offer advice, share war stories, maybe even kick some demon butt alongside the new Slayer.
Can you imagine a middle-aged Buffy juggling Slayer duties with like parent-teacher conferences and trips to the grocery store?
Oh my gosh.
It'd be hilarious.
Right. There's a lot of comedic potential there.
Definitely.
But also a chance to explore those very real struggles of adulthood that the original series only hinted at.
Yeah.
Could be a way to make Buffy even more relatable to a wider audience.
Totally. Okay, so we've got this vision of Buffy as a mentor figure, maybe with a Ripper spinoff happening in the background and some tales of the Slayer sprinkled in for good measure.
Sounds amazing.
But there's one big logistical hurdle we haven't addressed yet.
What's that?
The aging vampire dilemma.
Oh, yeah.
The Angel and Spike conundrum. David Boreanaz and James Marsters aren't exactly spring chickens anymore.
Nope.
So how do you realistically incorporate them into a new Buffyverse series? It's a tough one. I mean, do you try to explain their aging within the Buffyverse?
Yeah.
Or use CGI de-aging, or just kind of accept that time has marched on? The fans on Reddit seem to have some pretty strong opinions.
Oh, they do. It's interesting how this ties into a larger conversation about our relationship with pop culture nostalgia.
Okay.
You know, it's not just about wanting more of what we love.
Right.
It's also about wanting to see those stories and those characters evolve, to see them through the lens of who we are now.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's like we want to bring these characters along with us on our own journeys through life.
Exactly.
But speaking of journeys, let's get back to what a Buffyverse expansion would actually look like. From what I'm seeing in these Reddit threads, a straight-up reboot with a whole new Slayer, and Scooby Gang seems to be the least popular option.
Yeah, and for good reason.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Well, the original Buffy told such a complete story, and Buffy Summers is such an iconic character,
Right.
that trying to recreate that magic with a new cast just feels unnecessary.
Yeah, like why mess with perfection?
Exactly. The original series had a beginning, a middle, and an end. To try to rehash that just wouldn't feel right.
Yeah, I agree. But that doesn't mean the Buffyverse is off limits.
Right.
There's so many other avenues to explore.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned, the one that seems to be generating the most excitement is the Ripper spinoff.
Yes.
You know, focused on Giles' younger, wilder days.
Oh, for sure. The Ripper idea is a clear fan favorite.
It is.
Like, we got those little hints of his past in Buffy.
Yeah.
And it just made us crave more.
Totally.
That whole dark magic phase, hanging out with Ethan Rayne, battling demons in 70s London.
I know.
It's just begging to be explored.
Absolutely. And imagine the visual style it could go for with a Ripper series.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Fashion, the music, the whole gritty urban fantasy aesthetic.
You'd be amazing.
It would be a world as different from Sunnydale High as you could imagine.
Right.
But still very much rooted in that Buffyverse's blend of horror, humor, and heart.
And it neatly sidesteps the whole aging vampire issue.
It does.
Since Angel and Spike wouldn't even need to be involved.
Although I have to admit I would kind of miss those brooding vampires.
I get that. I understand that they were such integral parts of the Buffyverse.
Yeah.
But, you know, the anthology format, the Tales of the Slayer idea,
Yeah.
also holds a lot of promise.
Okay.
Each episode, or even each season, could focus on a different Slayer from a different era,
Right.
allowing for a huge range of stories and settings.
I like that.
You could have medieval Slayers,
Yeah.
Victorian Slayers,
Mm-hmm.
Slayers from different cultures.
Oh, wow.
It would be a chance to see the Slayer mythology through so many different lenses.
Oh, that's so cool. Imagine a Slayer battling demons in ancient Rome or feudal Japan.
I know, right?
The visual possibilities are endless.
They are.
And as you said, it opens up the Buffyverse to a whole new audience.
It does.
People who maybe haven't even seen the original series,
Right.
but might be drawn in by these standalone stories.
Exactly. And think about the diversity you could explore with this format.
Okay.
We could see Slayers from all walks of life, from all corners of the world, each with their own unique challenges and triumphs.
I love that.
It would be a way to make the Buffyverse even more inclusive and representative.
Now, when it comes to Buffy herself, the most popular idea seems to be for her to take on a mentor role.
Yeah.
Maybe she's the new Watcher training and guiding a new generation of Slayers.
That's a good one.
Or maybe she's running some kind of Slayer academy like a Hogwarts for vampire hunters.
I love that image. That's hilarious and strangely fitting.
It is.
It would be a fantastic way to show Buffy's evolution as a character.
Yeah.
Remember, she started as the reluctant chosen one,
Mm-hmm.
then became a leader within her Scooby gang.
Right.
And now, years later, she's passing on her knowledge and experience to others.
Yeah.
It would be such a natural progression for her.
And think about all the fun they could have with that premise.
Oh, yeah.
A middle-aged Buffy battling demons alongside dealing with parent-teacher conferences, mortgages, maybe even hot flashes.
Oh, my God.
There's so much comedic potential there.
Absolutely. It would be a chance to bring in that element of real life that the original series only hinted at.
Yeah.
Imagine Buffy trying to explain a vampire attack
Yeah.
to her skeptical homeowners association.
Right. Or dealing with the demonic incursion during a family vacation.
I know, it'd be hilarious.
It would be a way to make the Buffyverse even more relatable, even funnier.
Totally.
I'm already picturing the scene, Buffy in yoga pants, wielding a steak in one hand and a sippy cup in the other.
I love it.
Okay, but even if we get this awesome new Buffyverse series with a Ripper backstory, some Tales of the Slayer, and Buffy as a mentor figure,
Okay.
there's still the question of how to handle Angel and Spike.
Right.
The fans on Reddit are really torn on this one.
Yeah, it's a tough one. CGI de-aging is a possibility,
Mm-hmm.
though it can be a bit hit or miss.
You can't.
Some fans have suggested that maybe Angel achieves Shanshu, becoming human
Right.
sometime between the end of Angel and this new series,
No.
which would explain his aging. Others are proposing some kind of curse or spell that's affecting their vampiric immortality,
Oh, interesting.
causing them to age more rapidly.
Okay, yeah. Those are some clever workarounds, but I've also seen a lot of fans saying that maybe Angel and Spike should just stay dead.
I've seen that too.
Like their stories ended in Angel and there's no need to bring them back and potentially mess with their character arcs.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. As much as we love those characters, sometimes it's best to let them rest.
Yeah.
Their stories reached a satisfying conclusion,
They did.
and trying to force them back into the narrative could feel contrived or even disrespectful to their journeys.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I have to admit, a part of me would still be disappointed if they weren't involved at all.
I get it.
Angel and Spike were such a huge part of the Buffyverse,
They were?
and their relationships with Buffy were so complex and compelling.
Right.
So do you think there's a way to acknowledge their importance without actually bringing them back?
That's a great question, and I think the answer is yes. I think their presence could be felt in other ways,
How so?
even if they don't physically appear.
Okay.
Maybe they're references to their past exploits.
Right.
Or maybe their decisions have had lasting repercussions that are still felt in the present day.
I like that you could have characters mentioning a past encounter with Angel.
Exactly.
Or dealing with the fallout of one of Spike's more chaotic decisions.
Right. It would be a subtle way to keep them present in the Buffyverse without actually resurrecting them.
Again,
exactly. It would be a nod to the past without letting it overshadow the new stories being told.
Right.
It's all about finding that balance between honoring the legacy and creating something fresh and exciting.
Speaking of fresh and exciting, we've covered the Ripper spinoff, the Tales of the Slayer anthology,
Yes.
Buffy as a mentor figure.
Uh-huh.
Are there any other Buffyverse stories that fans are dreaming up?
Well, one idea that keeps popping up is a series centered on the Watchers Council.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. We know so little about their history and how they actually operate.
Right.
There's definitely potential for some really intriguing stories there.
Totally.
What kind of show do you envision?
Okay, well, imagine something like House of Cards,
Interesting.
but with those stuffy British guys in tweed suits,
Oh, yeah.
wielding ancient knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even manipulating the Slayer line for their own, shadowy purposes.
Oh, that's a good one.
Think about it. They've been around for centuries, observing and influencing events from behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole world of secrets and power struggles just waiting to be explored.
Okay, I'm hooked. You could have political maneuvering, ancient prophecies, maybe even some rogue watchers who break away from the council's rigid traditions.
Totally.
And we could finally get some answers to those lingering questions.
Right.
Where did the Watchers even come from?
Yeah.
What are their ultimate goals?
Uh-huh.
Do they always have the Slayer's best interests at heart?
Exactly. And it'd be fascinating to see the Buffyverse from their perspective.
Well, that's a good point.
We've always experienced these stories through the eyes of the Slayer and her allies.
Right.
But to see things from the Council's point of view, with their long-term strategies
Mm-hmm.
and their often morally ambiguous decisions,
Yeah.
it would just add a whole new layer of complexity to the Buffyverse.
And think about the potential for bringing back some familiar faces.
For sure.
What if Wesley Wyndham-Pryce is now a high-ranking member of the council trying to make amends for his past mistakes?
Interesting.
Or maybe we could even see a young Giles clashing with his superiors as he starts to question their methods.
Oh, I love that idea. Imagine the tension between Giles's youthful idealism
Right.
and the Council's more cynical, world-weary approach.
It'd be amazing.
It would be a great way to tie the Ripper storyline into the larger Buffyverse.
Okay, we've brainstormed a whole slate of potential Buffyverse spinoffs.
We have.
But there's one thing I'm still dying to know more about.
What's that?
You mentioned earlier that Dolly Parton was involved in the original Buffy series.
Oh, yeah.
That's a connection I never would have guessed.
It's true. Her production company, $Sand Entertainment, was instrumental in bringing both the Buffy movie and the TV series to life.
Wow.
She was an uncredited producer on both projects.
That's amazing.
One of those fascinating behind-the-scenes tidbits that really makes you appreciate the unexpected journeys these stories take
Yeah.
on their way to the screen.
It's amazing to think that Dolly Parton, the queen of country music, had a hand in creating Buffy Summers the Vampire Slayer.
Right.
And you said she's even expressed interest in a revival.
She has, which to me speaks volumes about the enduring appeal of the Buffyverse.
Yeah. What do you think that means?
It's a story that resonates with people from all walks of life,
Mm-hmm.
across genres and generations.
It's like that we need these heroes now more than ever idea that Sarah Michelle Gellar mentioned.
It is.
There's a timeless quality to the Buffyverse,
Definitely.
a blend of humor, action, and heart that just continues to draw people in.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. But as much as we've been focusing on the who and the how of a potential Buffyverse revival,
Right.
let's not forget about the why.
Oh, good point.
What kind of threats would a new series even face?
That's a great question. The Buffyverse has always been so good at using the supernatural as a metaphor for real-world struggles. So what's keeping us up at night these days?
Yeah.
What anxieties are ripe for a good demon-slaying allegory?
Well, we've got climate change, social media, toxicity, political polarization.
Oh, yeah.
It's a buffet of real-world monsters.
It's like the Hellmouth has gone global.
I know, right?
Imagine a Buffyverse story where the big bad is an internet troll who's weaponizing misinformation and turning people against each other.
Oh, that's scary.
Or maybe a demon that feeds on our social media insecurities and anxieties.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That would be terrifying.
And let's not forget about climate change.
Right?
What if there's a demon that thrives on environmental destruction?
Okay.
Or a powerful vampire who's hoarding resources and exploiting the planet for their own gain?
It would be a way to engage with these urgent issues in a way that's both entertaining and thought-provoking.
Absolutely.
And let's be honest, who wouldn't want to see Buffy Summers take down a climate change-denying demon?
I would buy tickets to that showdown.
Me too.
But of course, we can't forget about the classic Buffyverse monsters.
Right.
Vampires, demons, werewolves.
They're not going anywhere.
Nope. They're part of the Buffyverse's DNA.
Exactly. But I think there's room to reimagine them.
Yeah.
To give them a fresh spin for a new generation.
Totally.
What if vampires aren't just blood-sucking fiends anymore,
Okay.
but sophisticated social media influencers who are using their charm and eternal youth to manipulate the masses?
Oh, that's a fantastic idea, and it plays into our current anxieties about online manipulation and the cult of celebrity.
Right, and maybe werewolves could be a metaphor for the struggles of marginalized communities,
Okay.
facing prejudice and fear simply for being who they are.
Those are some really powerful concepts.
They are.
It's exciting to think about how the Buffyverse could be used to explore these contemporary issues.
Yeah.
To give voice to those who are often silenced.
Mm-hmm.
And to offer a sense of hope and empowerment in the face of darkness.
So it sounds like we're in agreement. A new Buffyverse series needs to tap into our modern-day fears.
For sure.
While still delivering those classic monster mashups that we know and love.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It needs to strike that delicate balance between honoring the past and forging a new path.
Right.
It's a challenge for sure,
Yeah.
but one that I think talented creators are more than capable of meeting.
So where does this leave us? Is a Buffyverse revival inevitable?
I don't think we can say for certain.
Yeah.
But the conversation is definitely happening,
It is.
and there's a real sense of excitement and anticipation building among fans.
It's exciting, isn't it, to think that after all these years, Buffy Summers could be poised for a comeback.
It really is.
Ready to slay a whole new generation of demons, both real and metaphorical.
And I think it speaks to the enduring power of stories, to connect with us on a deep level, to provide comfort and inspiration, and to remind us that even in the face of darkness, there's always hope.
Yeah.
And sometimes all it takes is a slayer with a sharp stake and a witty quip to remind us of that.
Beautifully said. So to all you Buffy fans out there, keep the faith.
Yes.
The future of the Buffyverse is looking bright.
It is.
And who knows what adventures await.
So exciting.
Until next time, stay slaying.
This is your need to know.